Hello and welcome to episode 4 of When Pigs Fly. I am Patty McGuire. I'm joined by Renee Masaccio and Tracy Malhano. And today we are venturing into the unknown, our favorite subject. Who wants to start?
How about you, Trace?
Okay, sure. I'll bite. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is I remember when I first got this understanding that nothing is everything. And that you can really jam out on that because people are terrified of nothing. No, you have nothing to hold on to. You have no belief systems. You have no grounding. You have no structure. It's nothing because nothing is everything. It's infinite possibility, right? So that's such a big, like I'm going right in with the boom, the big wrap your head around this. If you can embrace nothing, you have access to everything.
Oh,
Wow.
I love
Yeah.
it. That's a t-shirt. Nothing is everything. Totally a t-shirt.
Well, and it is because we were talking in the last episode and just sort of, getting rid of the masks and you go with the flow. And all of these are pretty, into the whole thing of really basically understanding yourself, getting out of the comfort zones, moving into who and what we truthfully are, which is really uncomfortable for a lot of us. And when we are going back into that natural flow of who and what we are, everything sort of flows easily. And that is so uncomfortable. And so you're looking for the next shoe to drop because wait a minute, everything's too quiet. And and where do you think that statement came from? Oh, the next shoe's going to drop. Oh, everything's too easy. Now the next shoe's going to drop. No, how about just being in that now and what that feels like? Because
Yep.
it's just such an uncomfortable place. And we did that this year, my daughter and I getting ready for Christmas and all that stuff. And everything went really smooth and really easy. And we were both like, okay, so what's wrong? We're missing something. It was way faster this year than it was. And we were really looking for, okay, something had to be wrong. Why couldn't we just accept and honor that? No, everything was perfect.
Yep.
It was fine.
Yeah. That was a destination on the struggle bus. We're
Oh,
not
it
on it
sure
anymore.
was. We were
We're
on
not.
that bus long.
Yeah, and it's true, and when something, in this new energy that we're in, when something goes right and easily we do, then it's that, okay, wait, could that really have been it? And it's like, well, wait, didn't you set an intention for this to go easily and go smoothly? And then when it does, we go, uh-oh. And, particularly like with a lot of work habits, right? Where we go, right, no pain, no gain, all of these old things that didn't serve anybody, it put everybody on the struggle bus. And then the next question is, how do I'd love for us to share some of our stories. How do we cope with the unknown? Like, what do you, and it's not even coping, it's what do you do? Because, coping insinuates that we're struggling, but there is a way that you can ease your way into it and embrace it.
Right. So Tracy, when you first got that whole thought and everything, how did you really actually really embrace that? Or what did you do with that?
So I guess because, there's a lot of words out there, 0 point, complete neutrality. And it's, you can talk about things conceptually, but to really see them and feel them. And I'm going to be honest, I just went into a meditation and I kind of just went there. I went into this space of infinity, and I kind of sometimes say you have to feel it, right? And you don't know till you know until you know, but you never really know. So you just got to know, like it's this, infinite spiral of knowing because you never really know. And that's what we're speaking to, the unknown, and you know. But I remember being like, if just it's such an expansive concept that it's even really hard to speak about, that the nothing is everything. Because if we really give away all limitations and all boundaries and all expectations, literally anything is possible, which it should be super exciting. but instead it's terrifying, right? Because we like our structure and our boundaries and our checkpoints and our parameters. But really they're so limiting. It's a lot to wrap your head around. And I think
Yeah.
it's a day by day, right? I always like to come at with, well, what if? Well, what if? And I mean, I'm talking about crazy stuff like, well, what if I bit my finger off and it grew back? I mean, you know, like that kind of what if, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that I love that though, because you start to put that stuff out there, you know, and then all of a sudden you're opening up to really what you truthfully know inside and all the things that we can actually do. And, you know, for me, and I don't know about you, Patty, but you know, for me, this whole aspect of going into that unknown and having that uncomfortableness, I'm getting a little more used to it. And I sort of expect that now, because when that first started to happen and to go into that whole, okay, well, then I got to fill my time. I have to manage something, it keeping busy for me, because if there was nothing, then I felt like I was nothing,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, it was really very interesting, and always having to do, and keep busy and keep busy and keep busy. And let me do this, let me do this. And like all these things. And I think anybody out there doing that, sort of recognize if you're keeping busy, because basically that's telling you, I'm not comfortable in me. I can't stop and feel what's in here, which really is the nothingness and that ability to just be everything. That makes sense.
Yeah, and allowing your creation to come into form.
Mm,
That
yeah.
is right. That is, and getting, you know, for me, getting comfortable in the unknown was me taking a completely different, like Tracy said, I go to there, I use there's an expression called tabula rasa, which literally means a clean slate. And
Mm,
I'll approach something and say, okay, wait, no, if I'm carrying an old belief or something, I'll say, no, that's not a clean slate. And getting myself to a clean slate, and then follow the breadcrumbs. And sometimes the breadcrumb doesn't make sense in the moment, but you know, but you're inspired. You're like it's pulling you, right? It's not even right. It's a choicelessness, I call it. So it becomes
mm,
choicelessness. Okay, I'm inspired to do this. I don't know, and that is when you're allowing that unlimited field to play, right? You're engaging in that versus that I need to control this. I need to control the outcome. I need to plan the steps. And I think there's a progression that happens in each of our own, you know, personal growth, depending on where you're at in your journey, where you might start with, okay, I know where I want to go. And I still want to plan out on a timeline some inspired action, right? Because that gives you, right? Because it's like, wait, what do you mean I'm going to just sit on my couch and do nothing? And you gradually shift to, okay, now I know when I have action to take, I go at it like a maniac because it doesn't feel like work. It's not, it's still effortless. And right. And it may be that I'm going at it for 12 hours, but I don't realize it that way because I'm not on the struggle bus. I'm not on the gerbil wheel. And it's completely purposeful and it's in alignment with my goal. And then the next day, there may be nothing to do. And instead of going, oh, okay, wait, should I go back? And that's when you start, now it's do not go in the rabbit hole because when you get to that point the first time, you're like, oh gosh, the one with the most rabbit holes wins, right? They start, how about over here? How about this? Right? And then just going, no, yesterday what I did was completely, and right now I don't feel an inspired action. Now, what do we do? How are you now? What do you do with this time? How do you spend? Go have fun. Do some self-care, right? And then trusting, because your trust turns into a knowing, okay, the next time I have to jump in and spring in and take action, I can go at it. But it's a gradual process and you got to give yourself the bandwidth to do that. I was impatient with it and really made this a part of like I became obsessed with how can I become comfortable in the unknown and without having to understand every ounce, like without over analyzing it, right?
mm.
And then you play with it. When in doubt, play with it, do something easy, put something easy out there and see if you can create it. No,
Yeah, I
nothing
love
is
that.
bigger or smaller in creation. It's just our perception,
Right. So true.
right?
Well, let me jump back into that inspired action, because a lot of people, like when you say that, and I don't know if that happens with you, Patty, but a lot of clients, when I'll say, well, wait for the inspired action, like you're like, well, what is that? What does that look like? It's, it's, we're still trying to figure these things out. And I'm like, inspired action, you will just feel it. It will just be something that says to you, hey, do this. And sometimes it's, hey, go out and take a walk. Like, I don't have time to go take a walk. Well,
Yeah.
no, that's your inspired action. That's, when you're thinking that stuff, you have to act on that and do it. But we're these programmed robots that are, no, this is the way we do things and this is the way it is. And we're trying to figure out what the inspired action should be. And
Yeah. And then
sometimes
that becomes an action,
yeah,
but it's not fruitful because you're not allowing, like, your soul, the inspiration comes from your soul and it's guiding you. But if you're caught up in, oh no, I need to make a deliberate action just for the sake of doing, you're right. You've disconnected. You unplugged yourself. You're a Dyson vacuum. You're unplugged. You're trying to suck up all the dirt, and you want to know, I'm pushing this sucker all over the place, and there's still dirt. Yeah, plug your ass back in. Now oh, there's only one little piece of dirt, pile of dirt left. Boom. Now you're done. You're done with your chores. Let the vacuum go. Now go take care of you. Go explore. Go be you. And when there's crumbs on the floor, you're going to know to go plug the sucker back in and get going again. And it's, I mean, that's kind of a crude description, but it's, ultimately it's again learning to trust the guidance, and this is the reason we're being shown it, right? And trust it and get to a point where you actually then know that it's coming, and then finding, you find you have to do what feels good to you and resonates, and taking a moment of self-care is way better than diving into a rabbit hole in that moment. And so, because we were taught, if you're not busy, you're not productive, you're not, right? I hear people all the time say, I'm not being productive, right? I'm being lazy. And it's like, no, well, part of not being on the struggle bus anymore is getting used to mastering your skill so that it comes with ease, which that means in the beginning, is it more? Yeah. It's like basketball players, right? When they're little, they stayed up in the middle of the night shooting baskets, the 3-pointer at the buzzer, all that, right? And they mastered it doing that. Now they can probably do that in less time. It's the
right.
same thing. And us recognizing that, okay, this is a new project. So there's going to be moments, but it's going to be completely inspired. And then if you're inspired to go in a direction that feels unfamiliar, I can give you an example. I had a client, she does not drink coffee either. And she said to me, she said, Patty, ah, I kept hearing Starbucks. Go to Star. She goes, I would open my computer and I said, did you go? She said, I finally went. She was looking for a new office space. She said, I went, I thought I'll buy a bottle of water. She stood in line behind a commercial real estate guy, and they were having a casual conversation, and she said, I figure I'd come here because I wanted my new office to be in this neighborhood. He had an office for her.
See?
And see, that's the things that we're not used to considering. She's like, I
Mhm.
don't drink coffee. Why in the heck am I going? I'm like, see, but she said, I could hear you saying, go. We don't, we often get information and intel before we even know we need it.
Yes, yes. Always, always. And that's the thing, like, that
Right.
we're not used to. So when people get these pop-up thoughts in their head, they're like, oh my God, I'm just crazy. I don't have time for that. And no, you have to, that's inspired action, that you have to take those
Yeah.
things, because exactly what that story just showed. We don't know what that's going to open for us. You don't know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen, or it's happening we don't know the big picture. That's why we say to my clients, you do not know the big picture. You know the picture that is here. We don't even
Yeah.
know this picture, like let alone the big picture. So when you get these little thoughts, do them. when you're looking, go, oh, I got this minute, but now I see the crumb on the floor. I got to plug in. No, how about you just let that plug be there, or let that crumb be there?
Sometimes it's
It's
let
going
it
to be
be.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to let the mess be so that you can enjoy life, opposed to who's coming in and seeing your house. Oh, it's all so perfect. It's all so
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And, I used to, when my kids were young, I had this one person that would walk in, and every single time he walked in the house, I had this, there was like a split level. So I had a bookshelf there. Every time he would take his finger and run it over and come up with dust. So I finally put a dust rag there. So when he came in and I said, hey, could you do me a favor? When you're going to do that, use that dust rag.
Clean it, bitch.
All right. I'm like, I'm too busy with my kids. Like, leave me alone. Like, I'm not worried about the dust on the damn bookshelf,
Good point.
but
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
is that point of really recognizing you have to come first. The
Yeah.
inspired act, when you're taking care of you, inspired action is going to happen. Everything's going to go into this natural flow. Then all of a sudden, you're cleaning your house faster, easier, quicker, whatever it is, like
Yeah.
all these things. And I don't know how that is for you, Tracy, like in your business, because I'm sure you've got your family life, you've got the businesses that you've got to, take care of, and all of that. So when inspired action comes for you, how is that playing out, or do you recognize that, if that's even a real question?
It's interesting because I think that I had this inner knowing, faith, intuition, inspired action for years and had
Yeah.
no idea. I thought we were just getting lucky and things just fell on our path. Because now when I look backwards, I go, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was operating under this, system of believing and wanting it with conviction and going after our passion. And I will tell you, people look at my husband and I, and they're like, we don't get it. Like, how did you? Because it's sometimes I look at us, I'm like, were we out of our ever loving minds buying that piece of property when we had two small? We were idiots. Like, that was irresponsible. That was, or
Yeah.
it was unbelievably brilliant because
Genius.
it was genius. We
Yeah.
didn't get sidetracked by all the fear, but sometimes I look at us, I'm like, how are we not fearful? I don't really understand inspired action. I think he and we just so firmly and truly believed in ourselves. Now I'm grateful to have a partner who both of us were like, you want to jump off that cliff? Yeah, come on, let's go. Like
Yeah.
we weren't fusing fear into each other.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think if you just let it all go, inspired action, and how I did that or where we got it from, I don't know. I
You were
don't
in
know.
alignment.
Yes.
Here, that's the point. When we're in alignment, you might go, okay, somebody else might be afraid or look at me and go, why on earth are you doing that? But can I tell you, and I can tell you, this is the absolutely, when you're on purpose and you're in alignment, there is nothing that can stop you from doing it.
Yep.
So like, if you decide, all right, I'm going to take a hiatus here and put my feet up, if something comes into your energy field, there is absolutely nothing that can and will stop you from doing it. And you'll jump in and go gangbusters. And like Tracy, you just brought up a great point, because you were in alignment, and now, right, you have more knowledge and you see it. And that's why it's easier for you right now to play in that. Oh, okay. I do. 0 point is fun for me, right? And somebody else, it's, I've had people say to me, I know, Renee, if you've experienced this in coaching, well, what about nostalgia? What, right? And they feel like, oh no, it doesn't mean you're right? Am I erasing a part of me? And it's interesting. Like sometimes it's like, no, you don't need to pull the new energy in right now. Is always a new energy. Right now is a blank slate. And the only reason you would give it another meaning is from the Museum of Natural History, I call it.
I love that. I love that. But you're right. And Tracy, you brought up, that good point, because that you were really following back then, you were really following that true knowing inside as well. And I have to ask, because I think people need to recognize this. When I say to people, follow your heart, and then they'll call and they'll be like, oh my God, I was following my heart. I could feel all this love and this happiness. I was so joyful to do it. And I'm like, nope, you weren't following your heart. They're like, what? Of course I was. And I was like, no. But when you're following your heart, and Tracy, I think you can back this up. you just went with that knowing, you just did it. There was no emotion. It was like, yep, this is what we need to do. Boom, boom, boom. Then all of a sudden, you might look back later and be like, what the hell? How did I do that? Like, and I can say that truthfully about this business. I would never have imagined me doing this. I would, if somebody did say that to me, I was going to do it. And I said, you're crazy. You're not reading me, lady. But and I don't even know how I got to this point. It was just, I don't know, just doing. Right, Tracy? So when you did that back then, wasn't it just like no emotion? You just did it.
Yeah. And honestly, by choice or not feeding into the dialogue and the narrative of, I mean,
Yeah.
I will tell you, we've owned restaurants now for, I think, like 25 years. And so we were young. We were in our mid-20s when we started buying pieces of property in our downtown here. If I had, I mean, it's so many people, you're going to fail, you're going to fail, you're going to fail, you're crazy, you're out of your mind, they're never going to make it, they're delusional. Apparently, no, can't hear you.
Yeah.
You know, like,
That's what I mean. Like when you were totally inspired, in alignment, the two of you, and we all know when more than one gathers,
Mhm.
the power of the creation just grows exponentially. And that's when the magic happens, right?
and it's, again, I say some of these are easy to say conceptually, but until you live them, once you live
Yeah.
something, you're like, oh my gosh, I finally understand it.
Yeah.
But, that whole follow your passion, I honestly think for years, we just were like, what sounds great today, and you don't, all those, I'm a pretty good rule breaker and I don't like people to tell me how to do things. Usually if you tell me how to do it, I'll do the complete opposite. And I think that is a component to this whole story of following your truth. And even if they, life says, no, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, have the courage and conviction to go, I'm not doing that. I'm starting with 7. And then maybe I'll
Yeah.
go to 2. And maybe
Yeah.
I'll just skip 5.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, this is the unknown. This is the discomfort of, I don't know. It's like your truth has to override what society dictates. That's how we do it. And that's the only
Oh,
way.
absolutely. You can't innovate otherwise.
Mm-mm.
There's no innovation.
Yeah. And what works for somebody, and I'm sure we've all had those, what works for somebody is like, oh my God, these are the steps that you're going to make you whatever. Though that worked for that person. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
you are completely different. We're all different. So you have to follow exactly what, you say in the beginning of these and at the end, follow your truth, what resonates with you, take
Yeah.
it, the rest, let it go. Maybe it'll resonate another time, maybe come back, maybe it doesn't. It doesn't matter, but it doesn't, when somebody's telling you to do something, don't follow it to the T, feel
Yeah.
what feels right to you.
Exactly. Take what resonates and then go from there. And then now what do you feel, right? We have the ability to physically discern, is this true? Like
Yeah.
we all know muscle testing, there's like tons of ways. People use pendulums, whatever. It's all your energy. Your body knows the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
And
think the part 2 to that is, and if you totally screw it up and get it wrong, have the
Oh.
to yourself to be like, oh, all right, well, I got that wrong. Let me try again, which, because I think you have to be open to that. If you're going to go venture out into the unknown, expect it to be amazing. But if you get a little bump on the head, be like, oh, at least I chose that bump on the head. I wasn't following someone else's protocol and got the bump on the head,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
walked
and
right through that.
you gain knowledge.
yes.
Right.
We gain knowledge from all of our decisions and choices. We do gain knowledge, and it's like you can, and don't give so much. We give so much weight to the word mistake. It's like I
Mm.
love the story of Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx. Her dad was so ahead of the game. He used to ask her and her brother, "What did you fail at today?" He wanted them to have a perception of failure, that, oh, great, then what did you learn?
Yeah.
Genius. He reverse engineered the whole concept around, and look, self-made multimillionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Well,
that's,
and trust, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say it's the same exact along that lines of, trust me, we have made a lot of mistakes and pissed away a lot of money. But I always say, well, there went to the University of Life, the School of Life. And I'd rather give my money to the School of Life by my choices, my mistakes. Okay, that cost us a lot of money. That was a bad decision, but it's my university that I'm investing in, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That,
It's your purpose.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And also, I think let's take the word mistake and just start to flip that into, okay, this was an experience.
Yeah.
This, so that we start to lose the whole component of everybody that's out there like that. Okay, well, this mistake, exactly what we all just said. Tracy, you're buying into your university. We always experience what we need to experience. And like you said, Patty, we learned things on the way. No doubt you were like how do I want to word this? I don't want to say waste, but I'm going to say it that way anyway. Okay. When I throw money out, they're like, here you go, universe, here you go, because it doesn't work out. What I now look at and I say, okay, I guess I was the means for the universe to give that person that money. Didn't work for me, but they did. And then
Absolutely.
then I usually say to the universe, I'm like, okay, couldn't you have done that a different way? Couldn't you just brought me a GoFundMe or something? I'd have done it that way. But I know that I experienced something and I might not recognize it in this moment, but down the road, that experience comes into play, whether it's
And it'll
something.
serve you.
Yes. Or I say it to, I'm like, oh yes, but don't you see this? Don't you see this? And start to do the thing. And I'm sure you've done that same thing, Tracy, with all of those, aspects. Later on, we see why.
well, and not only that, same conversation, lit or different angle, you know, let's say tax bills, or I live in the wonderful world of bogus lawsuits, or ridiculous code regulations that they're like, oh, you got to install this ridiculous thing. It's only going to cost you 40 grand. And sometimes it's standing in your conviction, being like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And then they're like, okay, we're going to shut you down. And you're like, okay, here's your check. But writing that check, I put my energy behind it of, it's not a financial exchange to me. It's an energetics exchange. Like, I will give you these said dollars, this money,
Yeah.
but I know I'm going to be returning.
It's coming back.
It's coming back
Oh,
because
Tracy
it's going
Golden.
to balance.
Yes.
Right.
What? Okay, for anybody that is having an abundance, right, struggle, which we're seeing so much of it. What, Tracy, what you just said there is freaking gold times 1,000.
Mhm.
When you give it out, pay attention to the energy it's coming back. And
Yes.
so if you're like screeching and holding, you're literally blocking it from coming back to you. And that is like such a golden thing. I'm so glad you brought that up because, and it's it's totally counterintuitive to the way many people were brought up and raised. And they, that's an abundance mentality.
Yes.
And that's that trusting that, okay, I can bless it going out and bless it coming in, regardless of what it is, because it's coming back. But if you're right, if you're pulling
Yeah.
back on the rubber band, it's what's going to happen. It's going to snap and it's going to smack you in the head. It's not going to feel good.
Mhm.
But that truly right there is the essence of abundance. Absolutely what you just said there. I love that.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 minutes left, ladies. Any closing thoughts?
I just want to say that when you're, in that struggle and in that whole aspect, especially with abundance, feeding off of what Tracy just said, is when you're paying that bill because you're, oh my God, I just don't have the money for this. Now I'm going to take it from my groceries. You need to cancel that right away. Like, have your thought be cancel, replaces with the opposite. Let that energy go and just say, okay, more, I'm going to write this. I'm getting it back tenfold or more. Because
Yeah.
as you're saying that, or as you're thinking, you can put the energy there too, but then say it so that your system gets it.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror and say it. Guess what? That money is flowing to me. In every moment, every breath I take, money is flowing to me.
Thank you. This
feels
is
like.
coming back. And recognize you benefited from it.
Yes.
Whatever it is. And sometimes you got to dig a little and go, okay, right. But you benefited from it. and then putting it out there, like you said, Renee, okay, someone benefited from that, someone that needed that. It is because
Mhm.
it is a flow, and just do it with gratitude, and like I said, bless it on the way out and on the way in.
Yeah.
Good.
Gratitude's such a huge thing of this. Yeah.
Yes, good stuff. All right. Well, ladies, another fun and fabulous conversation. And if you are new to our channel, welcome. We are having such great conversations about this massive worldwide movement of self-realization, and take what resonates with you, throw the rest out. And if you like what you're hearing, please hit that subscribe button. And we want to hear from you in the comments below too. So with that, I will say goodbye to you lovely ladies. See you next episode.
See you next episode.